One thing I've realized about this criminal syndicate is that we are run, or this country is run by criminals who are foolish. Criminals that do not want to hide that they're actual criminals. Because how do you refuse to take fingerprints if you're not a criminal? Not just fingerprints. How do you ensure that you victimize anyone that comes your way? You are giving it all that actually you are a criminal and you have something to hide. In this video, I wanted us to unpack the last bits of the testimony of Mr. SPIES or Mr. SPIES and how he spoke about the things that Mkhwanazi did, which also includes the issues of fingerprints, the vetting processes, and how they actually suspended them and victimized even the spouses.
Report with you so that you can start disciplining people. So from that report, the acting chief of police has done nothing wrong. He's cleared. So IPED, they can go ahead if they want to arrest him, if they think he is wrong, because they are police officers. But from our side, in terms of the DC and investigation, there's nothing wrong that the acting chief of police has done. He's been cleared by our report, and for as long as there's nothing that they're doing from their side, if they believe that he is wrong, there's nothing I can do as an accounting officer. He reports to me. Even the chief of police, who is on suspension, he reports to me. If there's any wrongdoing from his side, I must do my own investigation, and I must also subject that person to a DC. I can't subject my officers to a DC based on a report that I myself do not understand, because I had to take it to legal, and legal analyze the report, and they refer the report to internal.
This one did not waste time because he suspended Mkhwanazi immediately. It says the city of Irregular suspended the EMPD deputy chief, Brigadier Julius Mkhwanazi, following an internal audit that found evidence of possible misconduct. Yebo. The suspension, effective November 11, is described as the administrative step to protect the integrity of the disciplinary process. In a statement, the city official stressed that it does not amount to a finding of guilt and formal disciplinary proceedings will follow. City Manager Kagiso Murutla said the decision comes amidst serious revelations emerging from Madlanga Commission into alleged corruption and political interference in South African criminal justice system. The testimony emerged from the Madlanga Commission is both shaking and deeply concerning. It points to systematic issues that this administration will not tolerate. We are unequivocally committed to clean governance, accountability, and endorsing public trust in our municipality, Lerutla said. Lerutla confirmed that the city has launched an independent internal investigation into fresh allegations within the EMPD separate from the audit that led to Mkhwanazi's suspension. In line with the municipal legislation and our clean governance mandate, Lerutla continued, we are launching an immediate and independent internal investigation into new allegations of wrongdoing within the EMPD. We will act decisively on its findings without fear or favor. I'm happy about this news. What do you think? I think also we want the arrest. Arrest him, Bopa. Bopa, that's what we want. Let us get into the video of today. So this testimony started by the number, the instruction from crime intelligence to vet the employees of EMPD. And what shocks me, besides Mkhwanazi refusing to take a fingerprints, what shocked me is the number of people in the EMPD that have committed crimes before.
Assault was 58, theft cases was 41, driving under the influence is 33, reckless and negligent driving 28, murder awaiting trial was 15, fraud awaiting trial was 14, robbery awaiting trial was 8.
May I interrupt you there? Okay, we don't have to go through all of them. Just based on what you've just read, murder awaiting trial 15, fraud awaiting trial 14, robbery awaiting trial 8, fraud 7. So effectively, these are members in the system who are awaiting trial or convicted for these crimes.
With the exception of fraud, Ms.
Except for the exception of fraud.
Yes.
The murder, there is already a little bit lower down, there is 4 officers that's been found guilty for murder as well. So there is 15 awaiting trial, meaning they haven't been found guilty yet, their trial is still ongoing, but further down the list, there's 4 for murder, there's 4 for rape, there's 3 for robbery. So even though at the top there's a awaiting trial portion, there is officers that's been found guilty already, that is in the service with criminal records, very serious criminal records.
And you say those convictions are in respect of murder, rape, and fraud, did you say? The convictions.
If I categorize from what I consider as serious crime for police officers, there's like negligent loss of firearm is 6, but if we go to things like extortion is 5, housebreaking is 5, kidnapping is 5, murder is 4, rape is 4, robbery is 3, pointing of firearm, defeating, gathering act. So from the highest list, which is more related to the Schedule 1 type of offences, the murder, the rapes, and that there is, and then there's at the top the awaiting trial portions that is still not concluded.
And even the commissioners asked as to how isn't it that before you even get a job, you're supposed to go through the vetting process? And the commissioner actually confirmed that yes, you have to go through the process, meaning EMPD is conducting illegal operations and is actually employing people irregularly.
No, Commissioner. That is unfortunately an assumption on your side.
Yeah.
Some of these cases stem back from the late 80s, 90s, and how the officers passed the initial recruitment process is also unknown to me then, because their fingerprints were taken, but how they get forced into the system, I don't know. But these records obviously relate to everything the South African Police Service have as a criminal record based on the fingerprints. And some of the cases, if you look at the convictions, the conviction dates were long ago as well, prior to their actual appointment date. There's one which is a very strange matter. It has been reported to us as well. There was an officer, he's out of the service now because he got caught again and then he was sentenced to imprisonment and he sits in prison. The officer was found guilty of murder. He was never sentenced. And this is a very old case, which I don't understand as a policeman how that happened, if you can be found guilty of murder and then not sentenced. But it's an old case, it's things that we picked up.
What is the policy? What is the EMPD policy regarding the employment of people who have previous convictions?
It's legislation that prescribes it. It's in terms of Regulation 11 of the Municipal Police Services, one of the requirements of the minimum requirements to be appointed as a member is that you may not have a previous criminal record, except if it's politically motivated or there's a specific wording related to that. But it is, you may not have a criminal record upon appointment. It's one of the challenging factors we have, specifically of interpretation in Ekurhuleni, not in the rest of the country, but in Ekurhuleni they interpret the words, because the sub-regulation starts with the exact words, upon appointment, you may not have a criminal record. They take it as upon appointment, not your career. So it's as if they, as HR, think, well, you can be appointed and thereafter you can build a career of criminals. And that is maybe something that needs to be changed, that it makes the word less interpretation available for people to say, but you may never have a criminal, in my mind, you may never have a criminal record as a policeman. There could be, and this is something that I say with respect, there could be matters that is happening in your career, which could be waived, or there could be a process of expungement that happened. As an example, you could be involved in an incident where there's, let's say, serious robbery or cash in transit, and there's a shooting incident, and you shoot the robber, but you also shoot an innocent citizen, and you get found guilty for culpable homicide, maybe, in that matter. In the execution of your duties, and you won't really have intent or anything like that, there could be an expungement process if the law allows it. But at the moment, the law states, upon appointment, you shall not have a criminal record.
This is very shocking, because if you've applied for government before, there is a vetting process of them taking your fingerprints, checking if you have criminal records, checking credit scores and everything. I think I've even said this before. They even disqualify you from getting a job if you don't have a good credit score. But we are finding out through Madlanga that credit score is nothing. People who are actually criminals, who have been found guilty, who have been accused of certain crimes, are actually getting jobs in the EMPD.
Regarding members who've got criminal records in the system and members who refuse to be vetted, what did the chief do about all this?
Chief RPA was already under tremendous pressure of being either suspended or placed on special leave, and I don't know if there was nothing that I, as deputy chief, ever saw that was ever done against any of these officers who refused to submit their fingerprints, or even the people who were guilty, that was found guilty. There was no further steps taken against any of these officers.
And him boycotting, saying that it's not part of his contract to vet, that in and of itself is proof that he has something to hide.
Commissioner Mkhwanazi at that stage, he blatantly refused and says he will not be vetted. He is exempted from being vetted. That is his words that he actually used. He's exempted from being vetted. It's not part of his contract.
Because if you do not have anything to hide, why are you afraid of going through the vetting process? Let them take your fingerprints. There's nothing to hide, remember? And you are the deputy chief of police at the end of the day. Why don't you allow them to just take your fingerprints instead of quoting your contract and all of that? I guess one thing about criminals that we can learn from all of this is that they know their rights, they know the contracts, they read their contracts, and they use these very same contracts as their defense to ensure that they don't do certain things. Then let's move now to the suspension of Chief Mapieye, the Chief of Police. The Chief of Police suspension was met with some people getting paid more, meaning people received more than they were supposed to receive as part of their salaries. So this was wrong and this was illegal because in a way people were getting monies that they don't even deserve. They would claim over time that they do not even work for. This, remember, is the corruption that happened after the suspension of Mapieye under the leadership of Mzolo, because Mzolo took over from Mapieye as the acting chief of police and Mzolo was controlled by Mkhwanazi. And remember also that Mapieye was forced to signing that resignation or that suspension. He did not sign it because he wanted to. After the city manager forced him to sign that, he actually signed because of the threats and the fear around his suspension. Then we move to the email of Victimised.
And you deal here with communication from a certain quote-unquote can you deal with that communication? Thank you.
I can, Commissioners, but I must apologize upfront if I pronounce it in a Malungu manner. Because
not even I can take chances there because I don't know what language this is.
This was on a weekend. I did receive on that Sunday evening an email from an email address which is me. And this email was sent to Jeff Wicks at 24.com, and I was just a CC recipient in this, and it was the CC recipients was Leonard Kasheka, Tolani and Nisa, Imogen Mkhwanazi, myself, Chief Mapieye, and Kenny Vicarious there. And then there was a title in the SATS, Julius Mkhwanazi has since not faced a disciplinary hearing. I suspect that the law firm that was appointed could have received something in return. Please report this to the media and shame the municipality for protecting corrupt officials. Please be careful, however, because Julius is highly connected with Mtlala, who's also a suspect in the murder of Dukaran Barbita, together with the CFO. My case of unfair labor practice has also not been solved by Ekurhuleni. Please follow up on this, as we need people like you to climb down on corruption. I am told from reliable sources that Imogen Mkhwanazi, who is the city manager, is the one who is protecting Julius Mkhwanazi.
So there's an email of Victimised who's said to be some kind of like a whistleblower, talking about the wrongdoings and the corruption that is happening in the EMPD. And they spoke about this email that was sent from this person called Victimised. And they took it to IPED, who was supposed to make recommendations. And from IPED, the findings were rather awkward and very strange.
Go through it. They even state that they accessed our emails at the back end, which is obviously possible if you have, it's official email, so they can have access to my history of my emails. And they then came to a conclusion at their recommendations that they cannot find any link between any official or anyone from Ekurhuleni between us and that email, which makes sense to me because none of us, I think, would have done it in any case. So they make this remark in the recommendation. They cannot find any link to anyone, and therefore they cannot take further steps. And then their last or second last remark that they make is that they suggest that Commissioner Mkhwanazi must lodge a complaint against his seniors and take official steps against his seniors for releasing his PAN number in the public domain, which is absolutely nonsensical. If you have to find whistleblowers and you then come with a report back and say, we've done this investigation into whistleblowers, we cannot find the whistleblower, we cannot link this, and then you make a remark that everyone in this report who's a senior to him must be reported and he must lodge a complaint against us for releasing, when it was found that none of us released it. So that to me is absolutely nonsensical, and it shows very clearly how deep the protection is going, that they even go with a false mandate to appoint a forensic firm to actually investigate a wrong angle and then come back and say nobody's been cleared.
And if you didn't understand, he is saying that how can it be that the IPD can suggest that this Victimised does not connect to anyone in the EMPD? However, Mkhwanazi needs to take action against the people in the EMPD for actually thinking he's the one that they are referring to in that Victimised email. And I think it's very confusing, that whole thing, because it goes to show you that Mkhwanazi had a lot of connections, including from IPED. I'm very disappointed that the commissioner failed to give us the name of the person in IPED who was actually concluding this report, because I think it's very important for us to know these people, especially in light of what is going on now. Hence, I agree with Julius Malema telling Batohi that, you know what, we are here, we need names. The names.
Republic of South Africa. Just her failure to respond to this question, she must take a bag and go. She's not going to be useful to us. We are asking names. That's why we are here. We are told there are people who kept people, it's names. Who are those people? We want names of drug cartels. One names of corrupt police. One names of corrupt judges. One names of corrupt prosecutors. That is the whole idea of us being here. So you call a witness, when she left home, when she left saying she's going to do what here? She's coming to read a policy statement in an inquiry. Yeah, we even discuss boardroom. We're discussing a pillow talk. Yeah. That's how far we go. Now we're being told no, just a name. We can't be given a name.
So you now not giving us the names of these people that are implicated. You are actually disturbing the whole process and defeating the purpose of this whole thing, because the person who started this whole thing named and shamed. So meaning that when the other people come, they need to name and shame. Because if you're still protecting certain names, clearly when you don't want justice, you are fine with the things being the way they are. All we want for this process to happen is so that we can have justice, so that people who are part of these syndicates that are interfering with the work of the police can be arrested. And IPD, as well as the NPA and IDEC, are all part of the people that are enabling this syndicate. So if now you don't want to give us name, why are you here? Why are you here? So I wish that we got names of the people from IPD who made this crazy recommendation. So the part of HR, human resource, when Zolo was supposed to now be removed as the acting chief of police, they wanted to extend his contract. And that in and of itself was very shady and very questionable.
To extend Commissioner Mazolo's contract from 30 November 23, first week of December, Brigadier Mkhwanazi was appointed as Deputy Chief of Police, Deputy Commissioner in the place of Mr. Mazolo, who then retired and went on pension and wasn't employed anymore. This is very strange, and the reason I say it's very strange is that the Chief of Police, in terms of Section 64, can appoint you and confer the rank upon you. In my whole career, and I've been in every single rank from constable right up to where I'm now, every time when I've been promoted, the Chief of Police, together with the deputies, would confer the rank. It's a small, intimate ceremony where the Chief will actually take off, on the one side, the Chief will take off your rank insignia and then place the new rank insignia on top of, and then on the other side, the other deputies would do it, and it's the Chief alone there. So this conferment of rank is a formal ceremony where there's then a picture stake and it's released, a media release, and everything is done. This was never done. I, as a Deputy Chief, a senior Deputy Chief by then, because I'm already in that post, we saw and heard Commissioner Mkhwanazi when we see pictures of him and when we see on roadblocks and that. And it is even, it is something which, and I don't know if I should mention it, about the way he wears his ranks, which it's a joke in the fraternity.
Because the Chief of Police, which is my PA, as well as the deputies, are the ones that assist in ensuring that the ranks are conferred correctly. But now, with the new Chief of Police, and Mkhwanazi being the Deputy Chief of Police, and also the appointed, the acting Deputy Chief of Police, there was a lot of problems with how he would wear his ranks. And the fact that after he got appointed, he just took that appointment letter to HR and then ran with it. There was no ceremony of conferring his ranks. He just conferred himself. That in and of itself is one of the things that show irregularity in his appointment and how things are done in terms of the EMPD. So he ensured that the whole process, the normal process of EMPD, does not get to be complied with. So I will play the clip of how the commissioner explains the uniform situation and how the EMPD officers wear their uniform.
The rank insignia on commissioners' MPS shoulders is indicating, for instance, what people call castles, but it is to align it with what the South African Police Service and Defence Force use. But it is a laurel leaves, and he wears 3 of those to donate his rank as the Chief of Police. And then he's got 2 swords and a sheath on the edge of the rank. So that sword must always point to the front. And the reason for that, there's symbolic behind it. There's even a government gazette that actually explained the depiction of this rank and what it looks like. That sword must show to the front because you are defending and attacking crime and defending yourself. If it shows to the back, it means you're a backstabber. That is what the rank is. That's what we think immediately. If I look at General Masamola as the National Police Commissioner and he wears his rank wrong way around, in my mind I will immediately think, but it will never happen. It's when you are at that rank level, in the SAPS it will be Major General, in the Defence Force it will be Brigadier General, but Major General, Lieutenant General, and then General. Your swords will always show to the front.
He then comes and shows us a different situation with regards to Mkhwanazi. Mkhwanazi wears the uniform way too different from the other officers, and that is a problem.
The same with my PCAP. If you look at the PCAP, there will be 3 branches of laurel leaves, and when you are a deputy commissioner or a commissioner, the 3 leaves will have a little flower at the top as well. So that is denoting rank. When we are walking between one another and I don't know you from anywhere, if by looking at that I can immediately see your rank. The georgette is easier to fit to your collar because the georgette has got a physical shape and your collar has got a triangle as well, and your swords must show away from your neck, again to attack and defend and not cut your own neck. It's symbolic into that, so that you don't become suicidal on your own and cut your own neck with your own rank.
Are you saying in this photo?
The georgette is correct, and his rank on the epaulette is completely wrong.
Thank you, Commissioner.
So this goes to show you that this man is not there to protect. He's there to serve his own interests because of how he was wearing his uniform. Because things like this, you might take them for granted. They speak louder. And the fact that he's been told that, no, you wear your uniform properly, Commissioner, he still did not listen. He would do what he wants because he knew that he's in charge, and everything that he doesn't want to do, he doesn't do. Let us then move right along to the irregular appointment and promotion. This one starts with volunteering, that there is no volunteering process or policy in the EMPD. However, Mkhwanazi had his own volunteers in the EMPD and hired them, despite the fact that there is no policy that allows for that.
The following volunteers joined the unit: TM, Makubalo, Stanley, Betetwa, Simuwada, Zuma, Malangu, and Selwane. So those are volunteers. The first group of officers is officers, and the second entry is that it's volunteers. We obviously never knew about them. We only heard of this in 2024 when they came to complain that we must actually give them jobs as wardens. We don't know what their roles are, but when they discussed it with us and they explained to us and stating that Dion Singh and Mkhwanazi and them and Kali, they were running them and they were giving them instructions and they assisted. They would do intelligence gathering. There's even operational plans that was submitted. I just don't know exactly where the operational plan is, but it was attached as well. There's operational plans where it states intelligence gathering. It is photos where they were working as next to officers where there's arrest in the newspapers. So if people were arrested for drug dealing, people were arrested for crimes that was committed, and they show us pictures of newspapers where they were in newspapers and that. So they had no formal function. There's no way. We don't even have a volunteer policy, which makes it more critical as well. Many years ago, we attempted the process of creating a program where we can appoint volunteer reservist concept, similar as what the South African Police Service have reservists. And it was made clear by us, by the South African Legal Services, is that the South African Police Service Act does not make provision that we can actually start a reservist program. So we cannot have, at this moment in time, a reservist or volunteer municipal police services. We can have reservist traffic officers, or we can have reservist wardens, but we can never have a reservist municipal police officer because the Act doesn't make provision for it at all.
Is it not unfair, Commissioner, to refer to them as rogue civilians? If everything that they were doing because Superintendent Singh or Brigadier Mkhwanazi had invited them, and they were gathering intelligence and assisting EMPD because they were either invited or allowed to do this. Is it fair to refer to them as rogue?
Commissioner, if a policeman do a criminal deed, in terms of the National Intelligence Act, there are only 3 intelligence agencies, which is SSA, military defense, or military intelligence, and crime intelligence. No one else in this country might gather intelligence at all. Doesn't matter who you are. So even I, as a police officer, cannot gather intelligence. And if I go and I give instruction to a civilian to gather intelligence and I involved in that trade, I am rogue, and everyone with me is also rogue. So maybe they are innocent rogue. I don't know if that's a concept that exists.
Are they rogue by association?
Not only that, the issue of trackers and the issue of volunteers. You also spoke about the irregular appointment of someone. I think it's Stella Jakuzi. If I'm not mistaken, Jakuzi or Jakuzi, something like that. Stella was appointed without having a qualification.
This was the HR liaison portion that fell under me, which was then managed by Colonel van Rooyen. And in 2024, February, they started the process where Colonel van Rooyen approached me and said she doesn't know what's going on, but suddenly there's Commissioner Mkhwanazi and Stella Jakuzi is running with the appointment process. There's meetings with HR, and they are busy with appointing a huge amount of people that we don't know anything about the process. So she actually then started to say, but she declines to be involved in this process because she doesn't know who's dealing with it, and she's not going to assist with anything in that. But the process was run primarily by Stella Jakuzi. She was a senior manager in licensing, which is the civilian side of us, licensing, dealing with e-NATIS, registration of vehicles and drivers and vehicle licenses. So she got promoted by Julius Mkhwanazi in this flurry where about 55 plus, initially it was 50, but there's more people that's been appointed in that specific period. And it made highlights of her because she's a civilian that doesn't have, according to us, the qualifications to be appointed as a municipal police officer. However, she was appointed as a municipal police officer, as a brigadier from a civilian position. And after the interview, she scored very well in the interviews. So after the interviews, she was the successful candidate, and Chief Mkhwanazi was in that period, for a short period, he was back at the office. And he then stated, because based on his CV, he wrote a letter and he issued it to Kasheka from HR to say, we cannot appoint the recommended candidate because she doesn't comply with the minimum qualifications. And he issued that letter to her to state she doesn't do it.
And you thought that was enough? No. It goes further to the city manager appointing Mkhwanazi as the acting head of community safety.
However, this was approved in November. What then happened in December is that Commissioner Mkhwanazi was always appointed while Chief Mkhwanazi was on suspension. He was appointed every month on a month-to-month basis as the Chief of Police, compliant with the law. However, in the 1st of December, he was appointed as the acting head of community safety. And there was no appointment made of any chief of the police. He was the head of community safety. And he received an appointment letter from then to even to date. Well, I don't know what's happening exactly now, but till February when I left, he was appointed as the head of community safety. And no one was appointed as the acting chief of police. So he effectively occupied two different distinct statutory levels, and there's no chief of police. Now, if there's no chief of police appointed, because you cannot be appointed to act in two different positions yourself, and you cannot appoint yourself to act as something like that. But he kept on signing, and he kept on saying he's the chief of police. And this is, to me, it is vicarious liability effects when the SAPS Act section 13.8, for instance, when you have a roadblock, it must be approved by the chief of police to halt the roadblock. Now, there's a difference between a roadblock and a layway and when you stop and do law enforcement in Road Traffic Act, stopping vehicles for speeding or stopping vehicles for checking for defects. A roadblock is fully fledged where you stop vehicles, you search vehicles because you're looking for a specific crime or something. So all the section 13.8 is signed off, must be signed in terms of the law by the chief of police. And Commissioner Mkhwanazi was appointed by the then city manager to the position of HOD Community Safety.
This made me to even laugh. I'm like, how many positions is Mkhwanazi supposed to have?
He made himself out. I don't think there's an appointment letter, but he made himself out as the acting chief because he signed directives and he signed letters, but there's no formal letter where he's appointed as the acting chief of police. He's appointed on an acting letter as the acting HOD of community safety.
So this man now, he appointed himself as the acting chief of police because it seems like the office of the acting chief of police has now been changed. It accounts directly to the acting head of community safety, who is appointed by the HOD. And he was the acting HOD at that time. So Mugai seems like he had more than one position to himself that he was getting paid for. So how much money did Mkhwanazi have? And how did he juggle this thing around? Hence there's so much corruption and lack of service delivery in the municipalities such as Ekurhuleni, because the police are occupying everything that is supposed to be shared. We have high unemployment rate in South Africa. People are sitting at home with degrees and experience because there's people like Mkhwanazi who have more than one position. This goes back to even the argument that we always have about deputy ministers. That what is the purpose of deputy ministers? They don't have any purpose, but the country allows deputy ministers. So we have deputy ministers, we have ministers. Same thing with here, people are doing more than one job, like Mkhwanazi. Ooh, what a happy family, what a happy home. Ibona bantu, we are here in this world, we are here to accompany them to live a good life. Because clearly it doesn't make sense that one person can have more than one job, appoint themselves and reappoint themselves, remove themselves, account to themselves, do everything to themselves and for themselves. You see, selfish people and criminals that are running this country, foolish, don't even cover your tracks.
Appoint the acting head of departments. The then head of departments would appoint the subsequent actings in their own departments. So effectively, if Julius Mkhwanazi was appointed as the acting head of community safety,
yes,
he would then have the power to appoint someone as the acting chief of police for that same period.
And I'm saying it's the city manager who would have appointed him in turn as an acting head of department. Of
community safety, yes, she did.
Okay, Commissioner, just so that we understand, you said something that now confuses.
Then I'll conclude this video by talking about his retirement. He spoke about his retirement, that he had to take early retirement from the 8th of, I think it's the 8th of January 2025. And he says that he did so because he couldn't deal. This was too much and overwhelming.
However, because of all this victimization and ostracization that happened in the department, when I turned 60, myself and my family had a serious discussion about it to state that I would rather take early retirement. Look, if you can afford it, let me take early retirement, and I'm going to have mental health issues and heart attack if I carry on in this manner, because all of this criminality around me is directly against my DNA of being a policeman, and I cannot cope with nothing being done in the city, and it's clear the city is on a path of destruction.
However, On the 5th of February, there was an incident that happened after an attorney of Mapiye asked some registration number in the office. And he then asked assistance in getting the registration number of a certain vehicle. And apparently that vehicle belonged to Sarah, I think it's Sarah Cheetah.
Correct. It is not mentioned here, but on the 27th of January, there was an incident that took place at work where Commissioner Mapiye there was discipline steps taken against Commissioner Mapiye and he's being suspended for those disciplinary steps. On the 27th of January, I was contacted by Commissioner Mapiye's legal representative, Mrs. Erika Bester. And in this process, she asked me if I can confirm a specific vehicle registration number if it belongs to the city. Now that's part of my job. Everyone asked me that and that. So I confirmed to her, yes, I can confirm. Let me just find out everything about the vehicle and then I will come back to you about it as well. I sent the email to Colonel Bloemhoff, which she then forwarded to the fleet section, and she posted it on WhatsApps to everyone. And middle of the day, Sarah Cheetah sent an email to say that I victimized her, and she sent it to the city manager and to Mkhwanazi. And I'm victimizing her because I'm looking at her cars. I didn't even know whose vehicle it was. And then I was in a meeting during that morning. I didn't see this email flurry. Middle of the afternoon, I answered it back to everyone and I say, I'm not busy with the investigation. I was requested by a lawyer to confirm if a vehicle belonged to the city. And this is what I'm doing. I'm checking if this vehicle is our vehicle of the city at all. And then I got contacted by Advocate Bierski. He sent me an email and he introduced himself to say he's the evidence leader in the chief's case and he wants to speak to me. He wants to have a meeting. I then referred to him and said to him, I'm busy at the moment, but we can meet after hours in the evening via Teams, and he can set up a Teams meeting. That evening at 7 o'clock, we had a Teams meeting regarding it. Now, the date is important here because it's the 27th February where it is. I had then an hour-long or 54 minutes conversation with Advocate Bierski, which he was extremely rude towards me. And I informed him numerous times that I've been approached to testify as a witness on behalf of the chief. He was extremely unprofessional. I have that recording, we can play that recording. But he was explaining very, very personal information about Chief Mapiye and what's happening in his case. And he explained the whole case to me and he put scenarios to me. What will I do and what am I going to do here? And I said, I don't want to.
And he then said that he's victimizing him because he's looking for his car or at his car and stuff like that. And that's how poor Commissioner got suspended.
Laptop, where's your office keys? I'm in civic suit at that moment in time. And I said to him, well, as you know, I'm going on pension on the 8th of January. Everything was already handed in. I don't have anything. It's with the office. It's at stores. And I gave him my office keys. I took it off my normal keys and I gave him my office keys. City or the province, unless I ask Mkhwanazi for permission. And it states the dates. From 10 February, with my last working day, 28 February, officially, already approved more than a month ago already. It states I may not leave the province, I may not leave the city until the 10th of May. And so now as a pensioner, I must also ask my ex-criminal for permission to actually leave the province. And if I'm not at home, I must have permission from him for that. So I immediately declared a dispute. This dispute was set down for the 28th of February. My last working day was ended in a dispute resolution. So as we walked into the dispute with the presiding officer and that, the council sent a representative, Mr. Giligidi. And I explained my position and submitted the evidence here. And as he turned to Mr. Giligidi, it was said, his words were, Council, can we please go off record? And the commissioner presiding and says, why off record? What is your answer? He said, no, I was instructed to have no mandate to speak on this matter. So the conciliation certificate was immediately issued. That matter is still in conciliation, or not conciliation, in arbitration. It's been postponed numerous times because of the council and that doesn't arrive, or there's always reasons why they don't arrive, or submit documents very late. It's now set obviously for this week, Wednesday and Thursday, when we will go back into the arbitration process.
He then, after he was suspended, his wife, who was working also, or is working in the EMPDs, has also been victimized very bad by the system itself or by the Mkhwanazi system there in the EMPD.
So obviously I left them on the 28th of February and I'm now a retired Ekurhuleni Metro Police officer, but my wife stayed behind, or my life partner. She's in the logistics section where she is there. So after my retirement and cessation, this Julius Mkhwanazi, Dion Singh and Anif Persab, they started to do illegal investigations as if they're policemen, and they do illegal stuff and they threaten people. And it starts to target my wife as well, because what they do is they've moved people with no qualifications, no finance whatsoever. Ezekiel Naiker, they moved him as a superintendent there. Sarah Cheetah, who's involved with the chief, they moved her as the inspector. She was also irregularly appointed in 2024 as part of a bunch of the post where she was appointed as Inspector Internal Affairs. It wasn't even advertised. Mkhwanazi just appointed her into that position. It's as if it was a reward because she would testify against Commissioner Mapiye. So they were all, together with Antoinette Messenya, they placed in charge of where my wife is actually working. This Naiker would then go he would actually start targeting her to say to her, she must explain to him what she's doing in that section. So she would send him an email to say, I do vehicle inspections. It's been assigned. My job in the section is to do the vehicle inspections or do the firearm inspections. I work at the asset store where I hand out the assets. So she explains everything to him. After she explains everything to him, he starts with a process where he removes that access to say, no, you're not doing the vehicle inspections anymore. And Nayopiri would do the vehicle inspections. Or no, you're not doing this inspections anymore. Someone else would do this inspections. So within a week's period, they took everything that she was doing, they took it away from her via emails. And then the next week, Monday, they'd ask her again, so what are you doing now? And she explained then her history to say, well, this is my task I've always been appointed to do, but now you've obviously changed everything that I've been doing. Within seconds after she sent this reply, this Niker sent an email to say, please hand in your laptop, your biometric access cards, everything, and report to uniform stores. So she's now, as a police constable that's in charge of assets and managing the asset section, she's been moved to the uniform store to report to a civilian clerk, where she's now a packer. She packs uniform.
So this goes to show you how much Mkhwanazi is in charge in the EMPD. He knows that the EMPD is his baby, and there's nothing that anyone can do about that. And some of us, we feel for the issues of South Africa, that people like Mkhwanazi, they're contributing so much to the issues that we have in South Africa. Or make me ask myself what I asked from the beginning of this, from the previous video before this one. What are these political parties doing that are governing Ekurhuleni? ANC, EFF, I don't know if DA is there, but I know that the EFF and ANC are there. What are these political parties doing about this corruption in the EMPD? I know the EFF, for being swift actors, they act very quickly. I'm hoping that soon they'll do something about the corruption that is happening in the EMPD. With this testimony, I think the most reasonable thing that can happen is to remove Mkhwanazi and anybody there, or investigate them at least. But who will investigate them? Because clearly from what we've seen and heard is that the IPD is captured. All these platforms that are supposed to investigate them are captured, but they are good at targeting people. And that's the thing. They target them, throw them in prison, and their futures and their lives, and make sure that they stay at home. They're not protected enough. So it goes to show you how the extent of this whole thing, or this whole syndicate that is happening. Nonetheless, let me hear your thoughts, guys, what you think. I will see you guys on my next upload. Bye.